And now Monkey Butt, people are saying that we have to give them a moment because there'll be an ad playing and they won't actually see what I'm saying. So we're going to give them like 20, 30 seconds. And I'm going to slap you on the butt because that's what good dogs get. Oh, yeah. That's some good stuff right there. Yes. And so while everyone's waiting because they're watching their little video, because that's how I pay the bills, perhaps maybe I'll do it now? Woohoo! All right, everybody. Welcome to Friday. It's Houston with Problem, episode 109, and I entitled it Citadel's Organized Crime, because that's what they are. They are an organized crime family. They will violate the law to make themselves millions or billions of dollars. They'll offshore that shit. Someone sent me an interesting article from Bloomberg that talked about how there's a massive investment into bonds from the Cayman Islands. You know, that foreign entity likes to invest so much money at certain times, and we don't know what those foreigners could possibly want to be investing all this money into bonds for. That's American money. Those are Americans with shell corporations that are dumping that money. And it's really disingenuous when financial writers talk about the Cayman Islands as if it's some sort of mystery foreign investment group, and the hedge funds that are there are all these foreigners. They're all Americans. They're all Americans who are just dumping cash illegally from offshore accounts into things. And that's where we are. They're evading taxes. Exactly. So we got the announcement that Citadel is part of the Department of Justice investigation. It's not just the SEC, but the FBI is involved. So you know your financial crimes are brutal when you're going to start bringing in, the AUSAs, the federal attorneys, the prosecutors who come in, because the SEC is just going to do some sort of arbitrary hearing and fine you. But the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Department of Justice, they are going to be charging people with crimes. And it's not just going to be financial penalties as cost of doing business. So if I were Citadel, if I were Melvin, if I were any of those groups tied to Merrill Lynch, I'd be desperately trying to figure out how to leave the country right now and stay out of the country and just be like, peace, I'm gone. And then live on my Bond Island somewhere in the middle of the Pacific. They've been illegally manipulating stock. All week it's been announcements about manipulations of stock, of these large pool trades and collusion between investment funds, of price manipulations via naked short selling, violating market maker status or the intent behind market maker status to control the price of stocks. I think what they're going for is violating the spirit of the law. While there may be technicality and loopholes available, if they can argue that the spirit of the laws were violated, they can get you for all sorts of criminal things. And let's face it, if these hedge funds are losing billions of dollars in cash, they're losing 39% in a year or whatever for a lot of them, they are taking money from rich people. And rich people do not like that. So if you're going to screw people over, you got to screw over poor people because there's nothing we can do about it. But they've been screwing over rich people, and the rich people can do stuff about that. Yeah, so there we go. That's the world we're kind of in right now. All right. Do I have anything else to add, Monkey? I don't know. You know what we're going to do? We're going to turn off the intro. Ha! Before you guys get all antsy in the pantsy. Ha! No second intro. Okay. Chakuseki says, ominous briefing by Biden. Hope there's no escalation of violence over the weekend in Ukraine, but it seems it's edging that way. GME during OPEX might be a hedge against the market dump next week. Yeah, there are some weird things happened today. UVXY shares shot up 7% at one point, but the calls didn't budge. They went up 0%, even though like in a few minutes the price went up 7%, which you think would cause implied volatility to like skyrocket. And I was like, ooh, maybe they can sell some calls. And then nothing happened. There was a lot of red in the market, except for strangely, the banks were all green, which is really weird. Like, when there's lots of announcements about like people, hedge funds tied to your banks and big investment firms and stuff tied to banks, all bad, and criminal investigations. Why are the banks green? It doesn't make any sense to me. So that's weird. Every day I look at the stock market and I'm like, why'd that happen? There's absolutely no reason for any of that to have happened the way it did, because there's no tie to fundamentals. It's all manipulation. That's why. Okay. 750 net, read Executive Order 13818. It's all there. That's the one that's like, if you violate human rights abuses, they can seize your shit. I think it's meant for like foreign heads of state. So if they've got offshore money somewhere, they can just take it. Yeah. What was it? 1318, if I remember correctly. Executive Order 13818. Let's go there. Let's open the... Where's Chrome? There's Chrome. There it is. Okay. Executive Order 1318. This is from 2017. Blocking property of persons involved in serious human rights abuses or corruption. That's what I think it is. So, any foreign person determined by Secretary of Treasury, consultation with Secretary of State, Attorney General, responsible or complicit in or have directly or indirectly engaged in serious human rights abuse. This is an interesting one because this implies, in the United States, if you're a U.S. citizen or a resident, you get due process, which means they can't deprive you of property without, first allowing you to defend yourself and serving you with notice. But if you are a foreign entity and we consider you hostile, we just freeze your shit. You're not protected by the Constitution that way. But, okay, this is probably human trafficking. It also blocks people to help those who get busted by this. Why'd you send me to this one? My guess is it'll probably impose sanctions on folks that I guess are supporting separatists in eastern Ukraine, maybe? That might be what they'll use it for. I don't know. We'll find out. Okay. Angelo Torreno's Russia blew up Ukraine pipeline. War is here. Oh, shit. I missed that one. Ukraine pipeline. Gas pipeline, Ukraine's breakaway region catches fire after blast, reports. Huh. That 49 minutes ago. Holy moly. How'd I miss that one? I was getting ready for the show. And Perfect gas pipeline near Luhansk, one of the main cities in Ukraine's breakaway region in the People's Republic of Luhansk, caught fire late on Friday after a blast. Russian news agencies reported citing correspondents on the ground. Pipeline is struck by a powerful explosion. Reported citing natural gas supplier. Well, heck. Okay. Goodness gracious. That's all escalations, man. That's all escalations. And, was it attacked by the separatists? Was it attacked? Well, separatists are mostly Russian soldiers anyway. That's what we discovered in 2014. Just in my head, for non-car brains, can you go over the specs of your dream post-apocalyptic war rig? Ooh. Oh, man. Well, I like self-contained, although I don't like having a bathroom inside the rig. That kind of grosses me out. It can be really stinky. But I would like a fiberglass shell, something that doesn't have seams so it won't leak. A lot of campers have too many seams in the roof, and the roof fails, and big problems there. Probably something with 500 to 1,000 watts of solar charging capacity. I don't want a generator. I want deep cell battery banks. Diesel has to be a diesel, because then you can use diesel energy for catalytic converters for heating the stove and for air conditioners and all stuff. Lifted giant tires, not too long of a wheelbase. It's just me and monkey butt, so it doesn't have to be huge with multiple bedrooms and all sorts of sleeping space. I like cab over, and I like a pass through between the driver's seat and the actual rest of the rig, because sometimes, you know, it's March and you're in the Oregon Outback and it's -10. You just don't want to you just want to pull over and go to sleep, and you don't want to climb out of the truck in the freezing cold and, you know, get in. My dream is to be able to just park and go to sleep. A huge gas tank, like a 90-gallon fuel tank, is awesome, because then you can do 1,000 miles without having to refuel, which is a lot of off-roading, especially across, you know, very barren landscapes. Front and rear winches, big-ass pre-runner bull bar. What else is really important? Skid plates throughout, rock slides, probably armament along the fiberglass side, so that, you know, if I go by trees and pokey rocks, it doesn't gouge the fiberglass out. That's it. You know, think of an Earth Roamer, but more badassified than Earth Roamer. That's sort of my dream car. Yeah. Just lots of torque. Doesn't need too much horsepower. Just lots of torque, because I don't need to go fast. I just need to be able to climb over everything. Get good gas mileage while doing it. Definitely turbo diesel. Okay. Space Monkey, let's talk Adam Aron and giving away $1 million of shares. What the fuck, man? By the way, happy birthday. Yeah, I'm getting torched on Twitter right now by some Adam Aron fanboys. Adam Aron says he wasn't going to sell any more shares. I'm done selling shares. I'm not going to sell anymore. So what's he going to do? He's going to take a bunch of his shares, donate them to a charity, so that the charity will dump them all. And that will be how they dilute the float some more. Either you believe in buy and hold or you don't. Adam Aron is sitting on tens of millions of dollars. He doesn't need to sell things. He can donate cash to a charity at this point. He doesn't need to increase the float by another 50,000 shares by giving them to a charity who's immediately just going to dump them on the market. That's the shady stuff, man. I get it. You get a tax write-off. It's cool. Publicity, I understand that stuff. But there are other ways to do it that don't dilute the float and don't defeat the buy and hold strategy. Yeah, that's... And, you know, the Adam Aron fanboys are like, well, it's only 50,000 shares. I'm like, yeah, it goes with the 600,000 and the 2 million and the whatever else that they've been selling over the last couple of years. Yeah. So, you know, if Adam Aron wanted to do this, why is he doing it now? Right? Why is he doing it now? Why is he doing it at the end of the year when most of those things happen? Why is it the beginning of the year? Why is it before, you know, possible triggers for MOAS? What is his purpose? What's his purpose for doing that? I don't know. I just don't know. Okay. Good time for intro. Perfect timing. All right, that worked. So I just got to bullshit with Monkey Butt for like 25, 30 seconds for you guys to be able to get your intro in. Okay. You guys are so weird. Houston with slim fit shirt, looks like Henry Cavill. Raw. I've been pulling blackberries, therefore I'm now totally ripped. This is a very tight shirt. I feel like if I do too much, it will burst apart. I can bust out of this thing like Superman any day of the week. I should have a Superman shirt under this one if I'm going to wear it. Okay. Chakuseki, FBI put fluorescent dye in mayonnaise to track Ken Griffin's fingerprints. Greg, what do you think will start the squeeze? I don't think it happens without the market crashing. At this point, I think you're right. I still believe that GME could trigger it if they ever issue a crypto dividend, but they seem to just not be doing that. All the speculation we had towards that and nothing. So I think it has to be a market crash. I think you're right. I think that's the only way it happens, and sadly, that's the worst thing that can happen for the rest of humanity is a market crash. But the market is heavily inflated. We are like 60% over where natural increase in stock price should be. Corporate buybacks are nuts. Housing market is teetering. Commercial real estate market is garbage. Chinese bonds are defaulting like crazy to the tune of trillions of dollars. Inflation is the highest it's been in 50 years. we are in a very weird spot. We still have supply chain issues. We got supply chain issues, and then the shipping companies seem to be doing their part by keep setting ships on fire. So you have a whole bunch of like Audis, Bentleys, and Lamborghinis, Porsches that are burning in the middle of the Atlantic right now that were meant for the U.S. That eases up, you know. You don't have to save a spot at the ports. Someone else can go in there and offload their materials now. Because you just set it on fire and let it sink to the bottom of the Atlantic. It's a great way to go about that. Corey Ryder, see those private accounts is what needs to be drained, then merge calls, then insurances to feds go burr. Yeah. Bullion Z, can FBI investigation trigger MOAS? I think an FBI investigation could lead to it. If they have to seize assets, that can definitely lead to something like that. If they perp walk some executives out of these hedge funds or big firms or investment banks, that can definitely lead to dumping of very blue chip investment bank stocks, things like that. It's a very, very real possibility. The fact that they're announcing this stuff now leads me to believe that they have everything they need. They usually don't announce these types of investigations unless they have people dead to rights. They probably have numerous whistleblowers. They probably have ample evidence. They've seized specific computers and records from these groups. The subpoenas seem to be very specific and directed. They know exactly what they're looking for, and the fact that they made all these announcements means that they've got these guys. And they don't make these announcements. Like, you won't know the FBI is investigating you until they make a press release about investigating you, and by then it's too late. That's how they operate. They aren't just like, oh, we're thinking about investigating this guy, and then they like start fumbling around and giving you the opportunity to hide and shred material. No, they already have everything they need. So it all depends on how far they take the prosecutions. And my guess is if they stole money from rich people, those prosecutions will go a long way. If they took all of our money, no one would give a shit. But because they've got these funds that have $1 million minimums, sometimes $100 million minimums to invest in, they are taking rich people's money. And rich people do not like their money being taken. And so, yeah. AMC Bigums and Randall about swaps and dark pools and stuff was decent. I'll have to check that out. Yeah, and if they can put an end to the swaps, that's another thing that can trigger. Because all of a sudden, that allows all these FTDs to expire. And if they expire, then the brokers have to liquidate and make up for them. But because they're able to do these swaps, they're able to reset the FTDs over and over and over, infinite number of times, and then they go on forever without having to actually close positions. So if the rules do get passed to end this swap loophole, that can be a trigger. Amy R. and really enjoy listening to you. Oh, thank you, Amy R. Denali Anderson, Houston, what is your flower price? I am from Tri-Cities area. Please, 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 my fellow Washingtoneer. Flower price? Flower price. Denali? You're going to have to be a little more specific. I don't know what flower price means. So, Tankman142, hey, Houston. I was the one on Twitter that brought the point that normal people can get crucified for selling while Adam Aron can sell at will. Another point is AMC can use some of their $1.8 billion to donate. Yeah, they got cash on hand. They can make donations. Why does it have to be releasing more shares into the pool? I don't know. Like, it's weird. It's weird how they revere this dude, and pretty much every decision he's made has absolutely just destroyed the stock price at key moments along the way. I don't think he works for us. And, I keep hoping to see him, like, seeing the light. but then he doesn't, and he does the same thing again, just in like a slightly tweaked way. He figures out a way to dilute the float every opportunity he gets. Little bits, huge bits, whatever. And I just don't like it. I think we need apes on the board for sure to keep these dudes in check. And if you've got, your shares, you can nominate people to be on the board of AMC, and we can get apes into positions of power at AMC so that they can start acting like a company that's being short sold and to benefit the retail investors. Because why not? That should be their job, to help us, the retailers. We own the company. We own 85% of the company. They should be doing our bidding. SGA, it's like the real life version of Billions is unfolding. People keep recommending I watch that show, and I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. So I don't know what that means yet. Sam, seeing how high can GME go? Please share your thoughts. I mean, really high. I got internet famous for talking about theoretically how high GME can go, which is millions. Somewhere in that peak, the trading computers are going to run out of limit orders, and there's going to be somebody with a joke amount of 40 million, 400 million, whatever, just a stupid amount of money, and the trading computer is going to have to buy those shares because it's the only thing available. And that's, not everyone's going to get that price, but someone is going to get something silly for what they're offering. Query writer, rich people are like, if we can't have the world, no one can. World War III. Yeah. Just Bodies, this title, you're not worried about a libel charge? These people wild out like that. Let them. Discovery goes both ways. There is 1,000 attorneys on Reddit who will gladly represent me pro bono in a case like that. Let them. I would love to have access to all of Citadel's books. Let them sue me. They'll give me access to everything. And what's going to happen is that I will file a counterclaim. When they want to dismiss the case, they can't because my counterclaim won't allow them. And then they'll have to settle and pay me a fortune to go away. That's what's going to happen. So they're not dumb enough to sue me. Oh, floor price. Sorry, not flower price. My floor price is, again, I don't want to be greedy because I think sometimes being greedy can bite you in the butt, which is why I've got my ladder style for selling. But my floor price is basically what allows me to retire comfortably. And with the shares I have, $100,000 a share is where I'm going to start. So I sell 100,000 and then I list the next one for 50% higher, sell that one, list the next one for 50% higher, and just work my way up until I think the total volume of shares that are being traded during the MOAS is almost over, and then I'll probably dump the rest at that time. And then walk away into the sunset, get my giant Earth Roamer battle machine, off-road RV, and Monkey Butt and I'll travel the world together. That's the goal. And maybe you'll see me every once in a while do nothing but charity shows after that. Yeah, Alfred, some men just want to watch the world burn. Very true. Luis Gonzalez, Biden says Russia is about to invade. It seems to be that the pretext, they're going to be like, whoa, look at this stuff is out of control. The ceasefire has been violated. We have to step in as peacekeepers and invade Ukraine. I think that's the pretext that Russia's trying to do. And they got to do it soon. Their soldiers are absolutely miserable right now, sleeping in field tents in a bunch of muddy fields. And it's cold, it's miserable, it's wet. The morale is going to collapse if they aren't pulling back or on the move, and I think that's kind of where a lot of them are stuck at the moment. WOPR tried to buy 10 shares of GME through my local broker. They said they were restricted. Who's your local broker? That's weird. I hadn't heard of that yet. Mark Sloan heard about the investigation, but GME still dropped in price. Why would that happen? Because they haven't taken the market maker status away from these dudes. If these guys have been breaking the law, an investigation isn't going to change them from breaking the law. They're already facing penalties for it. in the end. So they're not going to stop doing what they're doing. They're going to try and get whatever they can, take that cash, throw it offshore, and when the shit's a fan, everything comes collapsing down. They've got billions sitting in a Cayman account somewhere that's completely not tied to anybody. Mike Millspaw, SEC and DOJ have been investigating whether bankers may have improperly tipped off hedge funds ahead of large share sales, block trading, and if the bankers altered favored clients ahead of the public. Yep. They're helping their buddies. There's a big reason why golf courses are very expensive to join at the fanciest clubs is because the very, very fancy people want to keep you and me out of there, and they can go have their little private meetings, knock their little white ball around the field, and strike these deals. These are the buddies. They went to business school together, went to finance school together, went to law school together, and they went to all the private high schools together. They had the same nanny network, and their dads were friends, and that's just how crony capitalism works. It's a club, and you ain't in it. BC, not only is Citadel organized crime, the whole financial system is, and the whole wider political system. The cabal has henchmen all over the world, in all world governments, but we, the apes, the people, will turn things. Yeah, that's the goal. We are a mass. We are millions. We are a force to be reckoned with. And while we haven't colluded in fixing stock prices, we do have a goal that will end the other's ability to fix these stock prices. Mike Millspaw, Andrew Liebenskind of Citadel Surveyor Capital was named in DOJ investigation. Yep. Yep, Citadel. I feel like I need to be wearing that Citadel's burning shirt that a viewer gave me a few months ago soon, because I think they may be burning. And the moment they are, I'm wearing that shirt. Project Sun says Billions the best damn show. People keep recommending it to me. I need to watch it, man. Corey Reddy can't just bury millions of dollars. It's true. That's why you gotta send it to an island in the Caribbean. Hone de Jesus Houston, who is the record holder for greatest theft by a government? Is it Putin or Marcos? Marcos is chump change compared to what Putin has managed to steal. 2014. Let's see here. 14. Putin. Okay. Yeah, so this is 200 billion. I'm sorry, scene. You guys can't see what I'm looking at. So basically, in 2014, it was estimated that Putin was worth $200 billion. So at this time, Elon Musk was worth like $5 billion, and now he's worth 300. Putin has done nothing but launder and launder and launder and launder since then. And the money isn't held in his name. It's held in names of other people who live around the world. So what was the article I was reading about? It was a young woman who had been a model and I think like an ice dancer or something. And she lived in a very fancy penthouse in Monaco. And she owned yachts. She owned all these things. And there was no evidence as to how she ever made any of this money. And it turns out she was a girlfriend of Putin. That Putin had stuck like $8 billion into an account with her name on it. And her job was to like accumulate assets for him. And she could live a comfortable life as a result. All those assets, they get funneled through Deutsche Bank. They get funneled through Cyprus. They get funneled through Panama. The Panama Papers revealed a lot of that. The most recent papers, what are those ones called? The ones that just got released this year. My brain is totally blanking on it. Someone will post it in there and I'll be like, that's the one. It shows how much money is being taken out of Russia and put into these offshore accounts. And those offshore accounts, those are going into hedge funds. those are being laundered through condos in the United States, or in there's 80,000 properties in Great Britain that are thought to be owned by basically hostile foreigners that are bleeding their countries dry, and a lot of those are, you go to Belgravia, you go to fancy neighborhoods around London, a lot of those properties in the States are being owned by people who have connections to the Kremlin through various shell corporations. You can go to New York City, a lot of big giant penthouses owned by essentially the Eurasian mafia. Donald Trump made a fortune in Florida selling condos to Russian mafia people. If you want to get your cash clean, you buy property in a first world nation, and then all of a sudden you have real estate, and that real estate can sell for hard currency anytime you want. So it's a great way to wash money and get it out of your country and into a hard currency market. And sorry, I'm getting lots of messages on the phone. Okay. All right. Sorry, shoot. A friend's dad just passed away. Okay, so that's a bummer. Okay, one sec. Let me just send some condolences here. I can't let that one go. All right. Give me just a moment here. Okay. Shit. That's crappy. Okay, what was I talking about? I was talking about Russian money laundering. I got off track. My brain's now in the sorrow mode. But yeah, so if these guys are taking all the stolen money out of Russia, laundering it through shell companies and offshore accounts all over the world, and then investing that money, right? And since 2014, you've been getting 15, 20% plus returns on the S&P 500. That $200 billion from 7-8 years ago is probably worth close to $1 trillion now, right? So, yeah, that's a lot of money, and a lot of it has been, is getting frozen as time goes on. So they're trying to shuffle it around to avoid U.S. regulators and sanctions, and trying to find people that aren't necessarily tied to the Kremlin. I need to find that article again about the folks that were holding assets. There was a guy that was Putin's best friend growing up, and he and his father, who, they worked as like mechanics or something. They weren't many muckety mucks, and they drove an old beaten up Toyota. And it was discovered that when the dad died, he had like billions of dollars. But that billions of dollars, he was not allowed to touch it. That was Putin's money. And so they're finding people all over in which, like, you will take billions of dollars and you will not touch it, and I will put you in house and you'll be fine. And that stuff is rampant. It's everywhere, and it's a total kleptocracy. I mean, if you've got access to one of the largest oil reserves in the world, largest platinum, palladium, uranium, like, you're gonna take all that stuff because you've got the power. That's what you're gonna do, and the Russian people are gonna suffer as a result. Okay. 750 nut. Talks about persons or entities offshore funds from trafficking or financial crimes. That's the 13818 order. Yeah, it allows them to freeze those assets. So my guess is that a lot of assets are going to start to be frozen, and they're going to start to do like a financial pincer move to force them to either back off or go Hail Mary. I don't know. Something's going to break there. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention Corey Ryder. Yeah, so Melania started trying to sell NFTs, And then they got bought. One of them got bought for $120,000, and it was discovered it was bought from one of Melania's own wallets to jack up the price, which is just straight money laundering. That's what we've been telling people that these NFTs have been used for, is money laundering most of the time. So that's, yeah. She's hoping that somebody, like, oh, if the price is $120,000, maybe somebody will give me $60,000 for it later. She might be trying to get her own escape fund going, that mom's coffee can under the sink or whatever they use to escape the abusive husband. DNT FK WeCats. Blow up Nord Stream 1, force use of Nord Stream 2. Yep, Nord Stream 2 is the one that goes into Germany, right? So it's going to force all that fuel to go that way. Friendface McRiffhard, Houston, in your opinion, what would be the first best step towards ending homelessness? Watch my episode 2 from last May or June. It's all about that. I think the best way to end homelessness is universal health care. Having health care tied to jobs means people that don't have addresses and jobs don't have access to health care. And there's all sorts of ways we can go about combating combating homelessness. And most of them are healthcare related. So, like San Francisco, 55% of the homeless have psychosis. They don't need like a shelter. They need a safe space where they can get medicated and get treatment. So that right there, 55%, boom, we put them into institutions, we get them medication, we get them treatment, and we make them safe and sanitary. And all of a sudden, a lot of health problems with homeless go away. Another large portion of homeless are folks that have extensive trauma, PTSD, violence in their past, been kicked out of their homes for being LGBTQ, whatever, military veterans. And that trauma often leads to abuse of drugs and alcohol. So a lot of the alcohol and drug use is an escape because they're in such a shitty situation that oftentimes if you can change someone's environment, you can eliminate the desire to lose themselves in drugs and alcohol. So if you can just give them a home, all of a sudden they're not sleeping on the street and they're like, well, I only got $5 to the name, so some Mad Dog 2020 it is. You can get them a home and get them a clean, safe space. That solves a huge portion of drug and alcohol use among homeless. And, you got people that are victims of sexual crimes, all sorts of bad stuff. And they need treatment. They need cognitive behavior therapy. They need lots of things that they don't have access to because they don't have health care. And in that show, I talk about how, the fighting of homelessness without providing homes defeats everything. So here in Seattle, $1.3 billion a year, $200 million by the city, $200 million of the police's $400 million budget, and another $900 million to charity are devoted to combating homelessness. $1.3 billion a year. It comes out to $108,000 per homeless person in Seattle. And guess what? We haven't solved any of it. For $1.3 billion a year, we can build a whole hell of a lot of houses and hospital space for these folks. In the 1960s, about 500 to 600,000 Americans were permanently institutionalized because, like 1 in 300 people have psychosis level. They need permanent institutionalization. And John F. Kennedy, his own sister had her own mental health problems. And he recognized the damage that having people shut away in hospitals far away to deal with their mental health, what damage it does to that person and the families. And so he presented a bill that got passed by Congress that would basically put community mental health hospitals in every county in America. And so that, there'd be that about 1 in 300 bed space for the population. And that way families could visit their loved ones who might be suffering, and they can still have a connection to family rather than being stuck away at a hospital that was hours and hours away. And he got assassinated, and the funding never came through. And it wasn't until 1980 when Jimmy Carter finally got the funding all set up to actually build these hospitals. So almost 20 years later, to actually build these hospitals, that was part of John F. Kennedy's dream. And then Ronald Reagan became president and canceled all the funding. And then not only that, but ended all the federal funding for state-run hospitals. And a lot of state-run hospitals closed and just flooded the streets with homeless. And almost conversely, for the number of people that had been in these hospitals getting mental treatment, when they got kicked out, they got replaced and put into prisons. Prisons are not a solution for homelessness. If you're homeless, you are if you're homeless and you are insane, you have psychosis, you've got serious mental issues. Putting someone in prison is not going to cure the problem. It's going to exacerbate it and make it worse. And it costs way more money to maintain somebody in a prison than it does to maintain them in a hospital and get them the medication and treatment they need. So yeah, I think a huge way we can combat homelessness is through universal health care. You go to other first world nations. Like, I was just in Paris a couple weeks ago. I saw 5 homeless people in 60 miles of walking through the city over a couple of days. And each one of those homeless people were surrounded by social workers at the time when I walked by, who are like, you need some food? You want a hospital? You need some help? Because, yeah, there are some people who will be chronically homeless, who treatment won't work. They'll escape from institutions. They will refuse treatment. But those people are such a small minority compared to how many homeless we have now. When I went to London a few years ago, I did another giant walk around the city over a couple of days. I saw one homeless person in the main parts of London. If London had the homeless problem that Seattle has, London would have, 200,000 homeless people based on population? That's larger than the city of Tacoma or Toledo. Like, 200,000 homeless people would be an absolute epidemic. London is a population of 10 million. Seattle's, 750,000? And Seattle has the same exact homeless population as the entire population of London, one of the largest cities in the world. And it's because we don't have the actual resources that are needed. There's a really cool program going on that a particular doctor started in Honolulu, who was getting so many people that are working homeless. Like, they can't afford an apartment, but they're living in their car. And because they're living in their car, they're getting staph infections because they don't have the hygiene and standards they need. And he just started, and if you work 20 hours a week in Hawaii, you're insured. And so these people might be working as dishwashers or day laborers or whatever, but they work more than 20 hours. They get insured, but it's costing their insurance company $6,000 a month for all these problems through being homeless in unsanitary and unsafe conditions. So the doctor just started prescribing apartments to them and making the insurance pay for it. Like, hey, your insurance is going to cover a 1-bedroom apartment for you in this unit because it's only cost them $1,500 a month. It's going to save them $4,500 in medical costs every month to do that. So just get people homes. That's the cure to homelessness. That's what works. And rant over. Go watch episode 2. It's all about it. Okay, Don. Bigum's talked about overnight interest swaps. I don't get what it is. Whatever it is what I want to know. Any idea how does it fit in? Overnight interest swaps. Ooh, actually, I don't know about overnight interest swaps. I might have to watch this thing. Whatever it is, probably shady. Most swaps seem to be shady. An index swap. Okay, let's see what this sucker says. We're gonna learn together here. An index swap refers to a hedging contract in which a party exchanges a predetermined cash flow with a counterparty on a specified date. So they're like, on Tuesday we will trade these things. A debt, equity, or other price index is used as the agreed exchange for one side of this swap. An overnight index swap applies an overnight rate index, such as federal funds or London offered bank rate, LIBOR, which no one's using anymore. Index swaps are specialized groups of conventional fixed rate swaps with terms that can be set aside from 3 months or more than a year. Interest of the overnight rate portion of the swap is compounded and paid at reset dates, with the fixed leg being accounted for and the swap's value to each party. The floating legs represent PVs determined by either compounding of overnight rate or by taking the geometric average of the rate over a given period. Like other interest rate swaps, an interest rate curve must be produced to determine present value of cash flows. What the fuck? Okay, how does it work? Okay, overnight index denotes a swap rate involving the overnight rate being exchanged, or fixed interest rate. Okay, so they're taking this money, they're giving it to somebody for a fixed interest rate. An overnight index swap uses an overnight rate, such as the federal funds rate or LIBOR, as the underlying rate for the floating leg, while the fixed leg will be set at a rate agreed on by both parties. So I guess some of it is floating, so the interest rate can change, and some of it is fixed, so it must be set in two different layers there. Okay, and the fixed leg is the value to both parties. All right. So they compound the overnight rate over a period of time, I reckon. They take a geometric average of the compounded rate, so if it fluctuates, they take the average across the board. Okay. And overnight index swaps are popular among financial institutions because the overnight index is considered to be a good indicator of interbank credit markets and less risky than traditional interest rate spreads. Okay. So it sounds like a way of basically giving a loan at a pretty much fixed rate, even though the rate is fluctuating over time. Okay. Sort of like you can pay your electric bill for the usage every month, or you can talk to your electric company and be like, you know what, take the average of last year and just spread it out evenly across the year, because in the summertime I pay $50 and in the wintertime I pay $400 or whatever. So it sounds like a way of averaging these things out. Beyond that, I don't know what the hell it's used for. I'm going to have to watch AMC Bigum's video, I think, to gather what these swaps. Most of these swaps are so weird and so convoluted that I need somebody to explain it to me like I'm 5. Okay, so the swap sounds like a brief loan. Yeah, step 8 raises power the number of days of the loan. Okay, so the swap is a loan. So my guess is it's a way for one institution to give money to another institution while still being able to record that money as an asset, and then that institution pays them a nominal interest rate and uses that money to make a play. That's what it sounds like. So it's kind of, they might not be giving them any collateral to do that. It's just the interest rate and the promissory note. So it just sounds like a loan to me. All right. I'll have to investigate further, see if I can actually do better explaining that. Okay. Friend Face McRiffhard, sup Houston? In your opinion, what would be the first best step towards it? Oh, that's one we just did. Sorry. I just did that question. That's, yeah. Corey Ryder, got your zombie weapons and stuff planned too? In the back of my truck is a whole bunch of shovels, and that's just going to have to be it. I got shovels and giant Gad pry bars for slapping and poking brains, I guess. Okay, throwing axes. I do have axes back there. Hey Houston, what can you tell us about the lithium field in Eastern Oregon? There's probably quite a few of them because there's quite a few dry lakes in Eastern Oregon. If I were to guess, they might be talking about the salt pan that's just east of Steens Mountain. Let's go to Steens Mountain. Okay, so I gotta turn on you. There we go. Okay, so go to Oregon. Steens Mountain is I believe it's the tallest mountain in Oregon. It's also the beginning of the basin and range, starting in southern Oregon. As you can see here, there's quite a few salt pans. And lithium is an evaporate material that comes out of salts, largely, because it will combine with water and be very reactive. And a lot of alkali metals will be in evaporates. So Steens Mountain is a big uplifted range here, and there's a huge salt pan. So my guess is if they're talking about there being lithium, it might be here. Although I'm not sure if the salt pan is part of the wildlife range. So Steens Mountain has tons of mineralizations, lots of gold and gemstones, all sorts of stuff here, uranium. But it's against the law to mine anything in Steens Mountain. But I don't know about the salt pan. Salt pan might not be protected because wildlife doesn't really exist in giant, barren, hot things of salt. But there are other salt pans all over. Summer Lake is really cool. If you have the chance to do the prettiest drive of your entire life in about 1 month, 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks from now, take a drive down Highway 97. You break off on, I think it's Highway 140 near Lone Pine, and then work your way down through Fort Rock, Silver Lake, and Summer Lake into Paisley, all the way down through Valley Falls, through Adel. There's beautiful waterfalls that form when the spring melt happens, through Adel, Oregon, and this entire salt pan becomes a huge lake, and all these migratory birds are moving from the south to the north. In spring, there's millions of them here, and then there's a really cool drive you take that goes up the cliffside of this mountain, all the way up to a glide port here, where there's like dozens of hang gliders and parasailers and badass adventure base jumpers and stuff are jumping off this cliff. And it's just a straight drive up through millions of years worth of rocks to see all the strata. And then you take the drive into Nevada, and you can badass from there and go to like Giant Crack, which is this huge split of rock here. Over here is a really cool hot river that you can like float, and it's a big hot spring that makes a whole river that's really wonderful. Watch out, there'll be naked people oftentimes along there. What was I talking about? Oh, lithium. Yeah, so where you get big salt pans like this, you get lots of lithium. So there's huge lithium reserves in these salt flats, in the salt flats of the Black Rock Desert, all the salt flats throughout the Basin and Range, probably tons in the Bonneville Desert, lots in the Mojave. Out in Wyoming, in the Red Rock Desert area, which is down here, they've got lots of salt pans that have a bunch of lithium as well. Yeah, because they're evaporates. So pretty much you get into the upper 40s, lower 30s latitudes. You get these big deserts, and these big deserts will have huge salt pans. So if you go down into like Bolivia, boom, salt pan. The largest known lithium reserves in the world are right here. The second largest known lithium reserves in the world are in Afghanistan. Down here in this giant salt pan desert, tons and tons and tons of lithium, and everyone wants their hands on it because there's like $1 trillion in lithium in this area. So yeah, they are everywhere. Lithium is wherever you find big salt deserts. And I wouldn't doubt if this chunk of the Gobi as well, if the Chinese go out there, I bet they can find lots of lithium there too. They're probably doing that right now. Yeah, so, and I bet the salt pans in like Namibia and Botswana also have huge lithium reserves. That would be something for those folks to mine. But lithium is really, really, really carbon intensive to mine and to refine. And my hope is that these supercapacitors supplant the need to mine all this lithium, and we can get our power storage much more efficiently from a much less costly and environmentally damaging technology. There we go. Okay. Just in my head, pre-modifications. What make or model of your dream war rig? Oh, man. I mean, ideally, I'd like to have something with, that can be repaired around the world. So, like a Cummins, a diesel engine would be fantastic, or a Cat diesel engine. But most of the decent rigs seem to be Ford built, and they've got Power Strokes, which is okay. But Power Strokes aren't necessarily something that's maintained elsewhere in the world. So if you get into trouble in like Namibia, you might not be able to find somebody to get parts and work on the engine the way you want. You might be scrapping together things. Or Detroit diesels might work as well. But, I want something really sturdy that the frame and chassis aren't going to like microfracture and crack. And because it'll be a lot of off-road driving in my rig. Yeah, so just in my head, pre-modification, ideally like a Cat or Cummins. It doesn't need to be a big engine, just needs to have lots of torque. A lot of people don't realize that some of these giant trucks, you know, your Mercedes, Unimogs, things like that, they only have like 200 horsepower, but they've got 1,000 pounds of torque. Because at an idle, you can idle at 5 miles an hour in four-wheel drive and just climb over everything because it's just so much torque behind it. I don't need to do burnouts. I just need to get 20 miles per gallon and be able to climb over stuff. So yeah. Unimog would be pretty cool, but Unimogs mostly don't have pass-throughs because their chassis are kind of on a hinge. So I like to be able to go from that front seat to a bed and just just go to sleep after driving for like 10 hours. Okay, John Donson. Oi, Houston, I'm from Europe and already have Metamaterial shares, but MMTLP shares are not available here. What price are you guessing for Metamaterial shares after MMTLP dividend? Thanks in advance. Love your streams. Triple digits, $100 a share if it squeezes. That's total speculation on my part, but you know, something at or above what Newegg had seems really. Newegg went to 77. I think that's very doable. Especially if the dividend for the MMTLP shares are as big as I think they are, it will mean a whole bunch of hedge funds can't pay on it, and there's gonna be forced recalls, and the recalls of those shares are gonna force the purchase of Metamaterial shares. And Metamaterial shares have a huge locked up of the total issuance of shares. The float is pretty small. They have a lot of institutional ownership and a lot of insider ownership, and the float's actually pretty tiny. So it could mean a big high price spike if that's the case. Patty MJ Houston, I know your strategy and brackets for GME. Just wondering the same for AMC. Not looking for financial advice. Yeah, I mean, I own a lot less AMC than I do GME, but I would start, 5,000-10,000 and work a ladder up from there per share. Yeah. Super Houston. Okay. Ryan Lawrence, indictments is the only way to start a squeeze. Indictments would be wonderful. They can't just do all these investigations and just wash their hands of it. Mike Millspa, good day, Houston. Thoughts on gold mining stocks such as Barrick Gold, Newmont Corporation as a hedge against inflation? Yeah, those stocks traditionally do well during dips because the gold price can double, and if gold price doubles, then revenue can double, and also allows them to open up a whole bunch of mines that they had kept idle because the price of gold was too low at the time. Rio Tinto, Xstrata, a lot of those big gold mining companies will probably see a big push on their stock prices. Gold mutual funds are a good way to go if you don't want to invest directly into gold itself. If you don't want to set up a safe in your house or whatever, and have actual physical gold. There was lots of talk about gold crypto, which I find interesting. I don't know how anyone guarantees that someone actually bought that gold, or if it's just a crypto coin that's tied to the value of gold and people just believe that by buying the crypto they somehow have rights on gold. I have no idea. It probably works just the way a mutual fund would, only without any of the oversight, regulations, or checks and balances. So I might try to stray from that. Although if I wrote code and made my own crypto that tied to the price of gold and then minted myself, 10 million of those coins and then put them on Uniswap and then traded to people a whole bunch of Ethereum for it at a fixed price, whatever gold was, and just claimed I had that gold and then walked away with all that money, there'd be nothing they could do about it. So that's my guess is probably what's happening with those crypto ones. Okay. That friggin' guy, if AMC squeezes, AA knows people will leave fast. Maybe he's purposely diluting to keep that going. Yeah. Lebu Luke. Oops. And of course, just reset on me. Where'd you go, Lebu? Shit. Lebu Luke was asking me a question, and then my whole chat just reset. And there it is. Okay, Houston, have you ever watched a Laserdisc? Yeah, my brother has a Laserdisc player. There is the best Laserdisc to own is Who Framed Roger Rabbit, because there's a scene when the car crashes and Jessica Rabbit comes flying out. There's a brief moment where she's buck naked for like a frame, and if you have the Laserdisc version, you can pause and you can see a naked Jessica Rabbit. Look it up. I'm not lying. But yeah, the Laserdiscs are hilarious because they're the size of like a giant record, and you put them into the machine and it does the movie for you. Yeah, I think my brother has it set up in his little cabin. Probably has a collection of Laserdiscs there. I'll have to go investigate. It's been years though. It's been 20 something years probably since I actually looked at one. Little Beefs, although I would love to see it, I think a crypto dividend would land them in litigation forever, so probably good to avoid. I would like to see Microsoft buy GME. Thoughts? I mean, Microsoft could buy GME. I think if they did a crypto dividend, the litigation wouldn't go anywhere. Not only that, but whoever sued them would end up having to pay the legal bills. And you know, the precedent set by Overstock basically said, yeah, crypto dividends, you can do whatever you want. You can do a crypto dividend. I don't give a shit. You are allowed to offer dividends to your investors. That's your job as a company. And if a hedge fund sees that as a way of purposely combating a short or instigating a short squeeze, that's the fault of the hedge fund who got themselves in a short position. So that's the way the court ruled it in Overstock. So I don't think a lawsuit would go anywhere. Kamel says FBI was found to fight organized crime. Yep. Long dancing. The best way to shake short funds off our backs, including via squeeze, is to make the stock so good that it's simply not worth shorting. Increase its value fundamentally. I totally agree. You raise revenues, you generate profits, you invest in more markets, you diversify, and that's how you beat them. Pickle Beaters, I believe no one is going to prison for the DOJ investigation, but Citadel investors have the right to dip now that there is an investigation. That's a good point. They can be like, all right, I'm out. You can no longer enforce this 6% a month withdrawal limit and stuff like that. So that's an excellent point, a very excellent point. Okay, I just got a warning that I need to update my Windows. Cool. Okay. Dead broke investments. Where can I buy more MMTLP? I've heard a lot of people are having trouble purchasing it. It's available through OTC. So if you've got an investment fund, a brokerage that allows you to trade OTC stocks, that's where you get it. But I've heard that like people that have it, they're holding on and they're not letting go at the moment. So they haven't been able to buy much. Beverly S., if Adam Aron would appreciate us and do right by retail shareholders, AMC would have a permanent wealthy following. I agree. Legacy 10 Productions, Houston, how high do you think UVXY will be in the third week of March? Go Mariners, happy birthday. I've got some of my calls for the third week of March. I may paper hand and not wait that long to see how high it can go. I'm hoping that between now and then is when we get an interest rate rise from the Fed, and that would cause a big jump in the value of those calls, and then I can sell them and get more GME that way. That's kind of my goal. Maybe buy more for June or July. Yeah. So how far? Hey, look at that. I'm only 50 minutes behind so far today. We're catching up. Uh, Peter Joy, nice shirt. Seems a bit snug. It is very snug. I am wearing my man spanks when I have this shirt on. Jack W. Haven't watched you in a while. What's your opinion on Loopring, and do you have a price prediction after the release of the exchange? I mean, Loopring is going to go up. If that's the fuel on which this entire new NFT market resides, and with the fact it's so cheap to mint NFTs in Layer 2 on Loopring through Gmerica and everything else, they're going to become the dominant presence in NFTs. And they'll allow for the minting of all sorts of weird NFTs. Like if special tokens were to be minted on OpenSea, and those special tokens cost you $30 to $130 to mint, you're not going to do it. But if it costs you a few cents on Gmerica, you're likely to use that network to mint those weird little tokens you'd have in games and whatnot. Yeah, so and it'd be easier for groups like AMC when they mint the NFTs for their movies that they give out to the X number of ticket holders who buy online. Makes it a lot cheaper for them to make that stuff. They can mint tokens and NFTs not at $30 a head or whatever. They can do it for so cheap, and pass them to their users for much cheaper. Yeah, if you're gonna take those NFTs from a wallet, it's costing them a huge number of gas fees to do that. So I bet AMC's actually probably lost money on creating their NFTs, and then they have actually made money in the end. It's been a great publicity stunt, but if transferring NFT from the AMC wallet to your wallet, picture a Spider-Man, whatever, costs them $20 or $30 just to make that transfer, they lost out on the price of the movie ticket, which was $12, just to transfer the NFT to your wallet. So, the Gmerica platform is going to revolutionize that, and I think Loopring price will skyrocket as a result. Dab da, local Costco's out of bananas. Uh-oh. Okay. Pacone, or Pacone? Pacone. Why is this squeeze taking so long? Haven't they spent billions prolonging this? They've probably spent $60 to $90 billion just since January trying to prolong this in their margin. It is very much increasing their liabilities a whole bunch, making things much worse in the end. Oh, Andrew Sorkin writes for billions. That's all right. I'll have to check that out. Dabda says, heard the Griffin told Sorkin material for the series. Another interesting reason to watch. All right, I'll have to watch Billions one of these. What's it on? It's on Showtime or something? I'll have to check it out. Hello, Jason Ward in New Zealand. God Emperor, bro, charity work for the rest of your life is the best goal I could ever think of having. With Moas, you could. Exactly. Like, you don't have to work for the man. You can just go help people. How awesome is that? Interspersed with long vacations to ski resorts and or beaches. Because, that work leisure life needs to meet. Not my name. Crypto dumping and Jordan Peterson and Ted Cruz heading Bitcoin thingy. Does this mean it's fully gone scam, especially with Tether? I posted, I retweeted a tweet about that, and the Bitcoin dudes on the Reddit subreddit about Bitcoin are like pissed. They're like, oh my god, is this proof that I'm in a scam? I think Bitcoin has legs and longevity, but it's being embraced mostly by one side of the political spectrum, hurts its ability to be mainstreamed across society. Again, like a currency needs to be treated like a currency and not an speculative investment. Like, you don't see $6 million 30-second ads during the Super Bowl for the US dollar, because you don't need to. People just have dollars. But you do see 30 ads during the Super Bowl, all costing $6 million each, with celebrities going, hey, sign up for crypto.com or for Coinbase or whatever and get into crypto. Because 99% of all crypto is owned by less than 10% of crypto investors. And currently, less than 3% of the global population invests in crypto. So looking at 1/3 of 1% of everyone owns 99% of the crypto. They need people to get in for the greater fool fallacy to work. They have to dump it on you and leave you holding the bag so they can get their sweet fiat currency, what they really want. There's a reason why Bitcoin is listed in relation to fiat currency, because the fiat currency is the stuff that's backed by a military. That's the stuff that actually can buy you houses and cars and private islands. So the Bitcoin allows them to launder it across borders without anyone noticing and tax-free. That's kind of what they like to do. Mr. Y. Houston, I appreciate the idea of impossible million hit price, but how it could be possible because there is a limit band of fluctuation with freeze moment. Mr. Y, I'm going to have you rewrite that one for me to be able to answer it. Sometimes I think you guys just kind of... So, years ago, when Ichiro Suzuki was playing for the Mariners, all these tourists would come from Japan, especially the first couple of years. They'd come just to watch Ichiro play for the Mariners, and everyone would go nuts. And there'd be these huge tour groups, like hundreds of them sitting in the stands, and they'd be doing their Japanese cheers and stuff. And my little sister is half Japanese and speaks fluently. And she was like, 10 years old, 11 years old. And so I would get her I'd feed her just totally random lines and start chanting them in Japanese until she'd get the entire crowd of Japanese tourists start chanting as well. And so she would just start screaming over and over again things in Japanese like, my fish wears a mattress, my fish wears a mattress. And the crowd would be so confused that this little girl was saying this thing in Japanese over and over again that they would just kind of assume that it was like a cheer that Mariners fans did. So before long, you would have like 200 Japanese people chanting, my fish wears a mattress in Japanese over and over again. And sometimes I think that's what your questions are. Houston, my fish wears a mattress? Question mark. I don't know how to answer that. Okay. Ever look up the video of the university student asking John Kerry about the grove and skulls and bones, and Kerry pulls on his ear and the student gets tased? I have not seen that, but you don't ask about skulls and bones. Then, George W. Bush wouldn't talk about it either. A lot of those guys are skull and bones Yale folks. A lot of CIA people came out of Skull and Bones also at Yale. Mr. Pensacola, I heard something about politicians not being able to trade stocks or crypto anymore. Any thoughts on that? It's actually not the politicians. It's people who work for the Fed. They just passed a rule today that's like, you are not trading anything. If you're going to work for the Fed, you don't get to trade stocks. You don't get to trade crypto. You don't get to trade Bitcoin. You don't get to trade securities. You are trading nothing. Because they've had some big scandals come out where essentially these big bankers of the Fed have inside information, and they are pumping and dumping and doing all sorts of things that should be conflicts of interest and considered insider trading. We are trying to ban politicians from trading stocks. 29 members of the House just sent a letter to Nancy Pelosi saying, "Hey, let's ban trading of by our members." Problem is that too many Congress people use their access to insider information to have fantastic returns. Some of these folks earn hundreds of % year over year on their investments, and they aren't in it for you and me. They're in it for themselves. And I would like to see a law passed, but I don't know if the people who mean well, if there's enough of them, they can get that done. Yeah, but politicians still have the ability to trade and to basically do insider trades at that. Pandora Papers, thank you. Oh, I couldn't think of that. Pandora Papers. That was the name of the other giant release of offshore cash stuff, was the Pandora Papers. Sometimes those names, they just leave my head. I have an abstract idea of what they should be called, and my brain won't come up with the name of it. Tip of my tongue, man. Project Sun, are you familiar with quantum locking? What applications could it best be used for? Video demo is on YouTube. I'm not familiar with it. I only know it in passing. Essentially, it's a way of like encrypting things by doing spooky action at a distance with two particles, and one particle is the locking device, and the other particle is the key. And so if you don't have access to the other particle, you can't unlock the device, and it can't be hacked. I don't know exactly what the specifics of how it would work, but that's my hand-wavy understanding of it. There's going to be lots of weird quantum things happening as soon as these quantum computers become more ubiquitous. And, the first thing they're going to use all the quantum computers for is hacking everyone's crypto accounts and stealing everything. And hacking their bank accounts and hacking, the Social Security network, and they're gonna hack everything with these quantum computers. So the minute a serious criminal element has access to an internet connected quantum computer, we're all screwed. They're taking everything from us, and that's where the Great Reset will come from, is from some Russian hacker with a quantum computer hooked up to the internet. After that, then they'll start be using quantum computers for actually encrypting things, and I think there'll be a big giant paradigm shift in that realm. Okay. Dakota, did you see the Ukraine bit on holdings? I don't know what you're talking about. I have to be more specific, and I'll see if I can take a look. S3 says market's uncertain as hell until this Ukraine situation clears up. I agree. It's going to be a lot of will they or won't they type energy. It's Jim and Pam on The Office, but in the stock market, will they or won't they? Goodness gracious. Okay. Oh. Corey Ryder is walking home through a cemetery and crows, covered grass, trees, headstones. Made two paths for me. Got home. Grandfather passed that moment. A couple of days later, his eldest child passed. Oh, man. Sometimes you get weird moments. I remember I had a friend I hadn't seen in a decade, and all of a sudden I just had a thought about her. I was like, I wonder what she's up to. And that was the day she had passed away. It's very weird. She got into a crash accident and passed away, and it's the first time I thought of her in years. And it's very weird how sometimes that energy can be dispersed into the universe however it may work. It's probably the most pseudo-science-y that I get is there's always a strange connection that way. Just methods. What do you think of Lou's price ranges? He says there's no way AMC and GME can go above 10,000. I don't really agree with Lou on anything. I don't really agree with him on anything at all. Pretty much ever. People always ask me, what do you think about Lou this thing? And I'm like, why would you even want to believe anything that dude says? I don't know. I just don't agree with much, if anything, he says about pretty much everything. Yeah, I mean, it'd be fantastic. If they go to 10,000, it's definitely squeezing. There's forced buying happening. But there are thousands of people who already have limit orders set above those prices because they're in different brokerages that allow them to set really, really, really silly high orders. Some of them can set to $9,999,999.99, and they have their entire holdings all limit ordered at that price, just sitting and waiting. So they're going to need to buy those shares. The shares in those people's accounts, 95% of them are synthetic. And they need those synthetics to delete, and they have to buy them. So if they're not going to sell for 10,000, then how are they going to get those synthetics and erase them from the record? If everyone else is setting limit orders, they're going to be way higher than that when the time comes. Then how are they going to close their positions at $10,000 a share? It's just not going to work. The prices are going to be a lot higher than that in the end. Stink77 Houston, what's your take on the bank bail-in law possible for 2022? Thanks, buddy. Condolences to friend's father. Yeah. I'm not really sure how the bail-in laws work, so I'm a terrible. Let's go to the internet because I've heard the term, I read about it in passing, and then my brain completely deleted everything I read. I can't spell bank. I can't spell bail-in either. I can never type when I'm on camera. Why bail-ins be the new bailouts? Okay. So you got too big to fail banks. So they're collapsing. They need a bunch of cash. So you bail them out. Bail-in, I think, is a lot where these repo and reverse repo markets go, where they're just injecting capital at all times. Banks use the money of its unsecured creditors, including depositors, bondholders, to restructure the capital so they can stay afloat. It's basically use other people's money. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, they're going to use the assets of their members to bail themselves out, which puts your deposits at risk. I think it's a really bad idea. I mean, the FDIC will be insured, which essentially is just going to result in bailing them out again because all those accounts that got annihilated, the federal government's going to have to pay them back. So, yeah. So the 25 largest banks hold more than $247 trillion in derivatives, which poses a tremendous amount of risk to the financial system. To avoid potential calamity, Dodd-Frank Act gives preference to derivative claims. Okay, so I think it sounds like the banks will love it because they can just get more money from us, and it screws over everyone else in the process. I'm a big fan of taking all the banks and breaking them up into thousands of smaller banks, and the banks if a bank is too big to fail, it's too big to exist, and we need to make it smaller. That's my opinion. That the more things we do that allow them to become giant, huge monstrosities, the worse we are preparing ourselves for the future. So we need to eliminate the big banks and make them much, much smaller banks. We shouldn't have, 3 investment banks. We should have 100. There should be dozens and dozens and dozens of investment banks. There should be thousands of commercial banks. There should be thousands of community banks. All these banks are getting too big and they keep gobbling each other up. I posted a thing the other day, last night, about Umpqua Bank. So Umpqua Bank was a small little bank in Oregon. It's grown into one of the largest savings and loans in the Western United States since the economic collapse. And it's got busted covering up their third major Ponzi scheme. And they're about to merge with one of the other larger banks, Northwest Columbia Bank, and become a behemoth kind of Washington Mutual style. That's what Washington Mutual did throughout the 90s. They went from this small community bank to the largest savings and loan in the world and then collapsed. Allowing these banks to continually merge without any antitrust concerns me. We need to break them up. We need to make them smaller. We need to make them more numerous. And making a bail-in law seems to me to be, instead of doing the right thing, let's do the wrong thing and hope it works. That's the way I see that. Okay. Barf Boo Houston, I'm being corrupted. I read about the pipeline earlier and just wonder if my MMTLP shares became more valuable. It's going to cause oil prices to go up. What's oil doing right now? Last show we were at what, 96? Come on. Oh no, prices went down. What? Oh shoot, wrong one. I'm gonna click on this one. Oh, price today. Yeah, prices actually went down. Yeah. OPEC basket was at 96. Oh, Louisiana Light's still at 96. But, yeah, overall prices went down about $1 since Wednesday. Interesting. Well, I guess the pipeline explosion was after hours. So the price is now fixed for the day. Yeah. Huh. All right. Interesting. Oh, shoot. I didn't show you guys the price. I forgot to actually click on it. Yeah, so Louisiana Light crude's at 96.28. It's up 1% over the day, but that's about the price it was on Wednesday when we last did a show. But there's no after-hours trading in this stuff, is there? Yeah, so it's fixed for the day. So the explosion happened after hours in the U.S. market, and therefore we don't have any updates as to what's going to happen. And there's going to be no trading until what, Tuesday? Because U.S. markets are closed. So there's going to be a whole bunch of pent-up orders, I think, over this weekend. And this is kind of an anything can go on Monday. Yeah. So, interesting. Not even $200 oil will make shale giants drill aggressively. Interesting. Huh. All right. Okay. Close that sucker. Eunice, if previous episodes didn't put you on Citadel's lawyers' radars, this title did. Works for me. Recorded Reddit windmills cause that cancer yet? I got a fatal case of windmill cancer and my butt won't stop bleeding. I'm sorry I won't be able to attend your party. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going through a lot of repetitive chats here, trying to find new stuff. Josh Dobbs, how could Moash trigger GME with GME announce? Hey, how could Moash trigger with GME announcing a crypto? Yeah, that or a complete market collapse, I think, are the two ways. Diaz, you should NFT some shirts. I mean, I don't know if I'd be allowed to because of someone else's patterns, but a lot of these patterns, I mean, the trademark may have expired in some of the older ones. or the companies may not even exist anymore who made the shirts. This one really, man, this shirt is really tight though. It is quite form-fitting. This shirt's for the ladies and for Jimmy D. That's who this shirt is for. That's what that's what we're going with today. 750 net, prisons shouldn't be on the stock exchange. I agree with you there. I don't think private prisons should be allowed at all. I don't think private contractors run prisons. I think it should be the government and our tax dollars that do it specifically. There should not be a financial incentive behind prisons. And these private prisons like to lobby for harsher penalties so they can arrest more people and throw them in there. That's what they like because that's how they make their money. So I don't think any prisons should be private. I think they should all be non-profit, publicly owned government institutions. Low-key jabroni. OCGN a meme stock? I know there's FDA news, but you don't know how they like fake old stories. Almost up 50% right now. I haven't seen what OCGN is up to. $OCGN. Ocugen after hours up quite a bit. Goodness. Up to 518. Oh shoot, I forgot to let you guys see. Up quite a bit there. What's the year to date look like? So from $5 over the last year to now. Well, it's year to date, not 1 year. Sorry. So we had spikes at 15 back in November, and then a big old drop. But clinical stage biopharmaceutical companies struggling to find a direction and a bottom in 2022 as the pandemic persists. That's not quite a good description for your company on Yahoo Finance. Okay. Ocugen announces U.S. lifts hold on submission of its investigational new drug application for its COVID-19 vaccine. Covaxin. All right. So, looks like they're going to get to do their trials. All right. So use the same manufacturer system they use for polio vaccines. So is it a live virus or is it a dead virus? Inactivated virus. Okay. And Novavax just got approved in Canada. So there's another option that's coming in there. Covaxin's been 200 million doses outside the U.S. in 20 countries. All right. That's probably going to be good news for them. But, all right. We'll see where it goes. I'm not sure there's much market left in the U.S. for vaccine manufacturers. That the market's going to be overseas anyway, as a majority of North American people are vaccinated now. That there's limited growth potential in a tightening market for them. So they may have to rely upon vaccinating the developing world. All right. Hey, I'm catching up. I'm only an hour behind. It's 4:04 p.m. I'm looking at chats from 3:20. So I'm 44 minutes behind. All right. This thing's about to reset because I'm going to scroll too far. And there we go. Okay. Gotta go back up. Gotta go back up. I've only got like 30 minutes or so until I got to bail. Okay. And then your truck engine seizes. The truck engine will always seize. Okay. Parataran, have you done the road to Hana? And also, when you could to where, if not, why should can? Thanks, dude. You're right. I've done the road to Hana. I've done all the way around and illegally took our rental car on the dirt road on the south end of Maui. It's beautiful. It's windy. It's rainy. And then you get to the south end of Maui and there's lots of washouts and you got to move rocks out of the way. And there's a whole reason why you shouldn't take your rental car there. But I don't care. I got full coverage. I'll do whatever I want with that rental car. Drive it like you rented it. That's my opinion. Beautiful drive. I recommend it. One of the funny experiences, I was with my friend Morgan. We drove to Hana and we pull up to this nicer restaurant. And the restaurant's kind of, it's this older home in the middle of this big field. And there's just this mustached, grizzled man with a mullet. And he's just standing there in jean short cutoffs and a tank top. He was just staring off into space. And I was joking with my friend Morgan that dude's name was Randy. There's no way that guy's name isn't Randy. And we park. We come into the, go give our name to the hostess. And that dude is standing in front of us. And I shit you not, she says, "Randy, party of 3?" He's like, "Yeah." He goes in. We were dying. Sometimes you can just look at somebody and you know exactly what the name's going to be. That dude was totally a Randy. There's no one else it could have been. What kind of name is Randy anyway? Man, he's really Randy. It's like naming your kid Richard. Just don't do it anymore. My friend's dad growing up, his name was Rusty Johnson. Come on. Why do you do that to people? Okay. Brandon Cowles, Houston tried to buy XX shares of Metamaterial MMTLP through Fidelity today, and they said to contact them to make the transaction. Thoughts? 6 seasons of the movie. Yeah, people are having a hard time getting their hands on this stuff. My guess is that there's a limited supply out there, and they're having a rough time getting access. Stacks McGee, when should we expect MMTLP divvy or spinoff? March? I think the spinoff in March. I'm not sure when the dividend will be. I'm hoping just shortly after that. I would love to get paid. I want to turn that stuff into sweet, sweet cash. And I've got 3 weddings I've got to fly to in May and June. And I've got enough frequent flyer miles to do one more trip. So I need to start actually paying for flights here. Maybe Monkey Button I'll drive to 2 of them or something. I don't know. Javier Martinez walked in on discussion of Naked Jessica Rabbit. I'm serious. The Laserdisc version of Who Framed Roger Rabbit is a naked Jessica Rabbit in the crash scene. She crashes a car. If you go frame by frame, suddenly she's naked, and then she has her clothes back on. It's one of those tricks that only 90 kids know about. Okay. One Ford Fiesta. Apollo God, journalist and lawmaker fight on Ukraine TV as tensions rise. BNO News. Man, sounds like things are bubbling. Most average Ukrainians that aren't in the east of the country are like, meh, stuff happens, whatever. But I think the ones that are in the occupied region in the east, they're much more in tune to the threats that invasion can bring. So there's probably a big divide in the population. There's, the Slavs are like, whatever, we always go to war, it's what we do. And then the people that are actually in it, they're like, this sucks. Yeah, I don't want to be in a war. No one wants to be in a war. I don't know if there's any diplomatic way to get out of it without giving Putin everything he wants, which then he's just going to use that wealth and power to invade anyway. So, I think just make Ukraine a NATO country and go from there. It's probably the best solution and the most ballsy in your face solution. Everton, Houston, does the government know that if hedges short a company to zero, they don't pay taxes? Oh, they fully know. They know for sure. Yeah. 70 Nut, thoughts on the global acceleration of crypto adoption due to Canadian banking sanctions, forfeiture, seizures. Most of those folks, I don't think, are technologically savvy enough to actually be able to do anything with crypto. There are executive orders coming out about crypto regulations that Biden announced sometime this next week. We'll see what that's all about, and we do need regulations of the market. There has to be. There's too many Ponzi schemes and scams and rug pulls and pump and dumps and all the stuff that makes people lose fortunes and get scammed out of their money. So a lot of the folks that have had their accounts frozen or possibly in Canada, I don't think they're savvy enough to adopt crypto. And if they don't have access to their accounts, how are they going to buy the crypto? I mean, the credit card limits only go so high. And then once you get the crypto, you can't use it to buy anything anyway. So it's, I think it's a lot of chest puffing on their part. William Morgan, crypto's digital beanie babies used for money laundering. Kinda, yeah. That's what a lot of it's being used for. I mean, again, there's three practical uses: paying for crime, right? Money laundering, and speculation. Those are the three practical uses for 99% of crypto price action out there. And then there's crypto specifically for crime. Murano is one of those. That is a crypto designed specifically to launder money and pay for crimes. That's its entire purpose. If you watch the little videos about how Murano works, it's like wink, wink, crime and paying for hits and moving drug money around. That's what they do, man. William Morgan, governments will ban crypto once they develop their own. That's very possible as well. If government currency goes to the blockchain, they'll definitely kick all the other ones out, because governments like the United States, we have a trade deficit, right? We have a trade deficit worldwide. We buy more stuff from other people than we send out. That's because our entire export is hard currency. Hard currency is America's number one export. We export hard currency all over the world for stuff. And our hard currency has value because we have a very scary military and we aren't afraid to use it. And that is where the value of our currency comes from. That's it, is the belief in a strong military is what creates a strong fiat currency. And that's what we do. We export our cash all over the world, and that cash goes in places and it's used, there's 95% of all the bills out there are $100 bills, and most of them are in giant bank vaults around the world. We depend upon our dollars being stored in banks everywhere, and they're used in crimes and warlords and trade and everything else. We don't care, because that's what gives us value. As long as people are using our currency as the global currency, it has value. G Funt YYC Houston, check out the CME Group balance sheet. The collateral they hold to be a counterparty for futures is ballooned the last 2 years. Growth exponentially to 158 billion guarantee funds and bonds. What? CME Group. Oops, let me turn on the scene there. Okay. So previous close $238. Market cap's 85 billion. That's no small feat. Here we go. It's senior leadership changes. Biotech such surge. First price comparison tool. Where does it have? Forward dividend yield, $4. Not too bad. Volume's pretty low, but share price is pretty high. What's their float? What's their market cap's 85 billion? Market cap's 85 billion. The price is 236. I'll just do it this way. 85 123 123 123 divided by 236. So their float is about 360 million shares. Okay. All right. Or their total issued shares is 360 million. I don't know what their insider is. Huh. All right. Gonna have to check that out there, G-Funt. Excellent information. All right, back to Big Houston there. Yeah, I mean that's if you've got 158 billion in futures and your whole company's only worth 85 billion, that again is an example of mechanics not necessarily working the way they should. Like when GME was doing $5-6 billion a year in sales, and you could buy the entire company for $200 million. That doesn't make any sense. Like I don't know how that type of stuff gets through. People are like, well, that's okay with me. $6 billion in sales, $200 million to buy the entire company. Like, I bet Ryan Cohn wishes he had dumped all of his cash into GME in like March or April of 2020. Could have gotten the entire company for a song. Phil Scribb, laws are only enforced on peasants. It's true. Which is why I love Finland's speeding ticket laws. That if you are caught speeding, your ticket isn't based upon like, it's going 5 miles over the speed limit is $100 fine. It's based upon your net worth. And so there's like that billionaire who got busted in his Lamborghini, had to pay a $400,000 speeding ticket because they base the penalty upon like what your net worth is and not upon like a specific tally for a crime. Because then you can speed all you want, and for $200 a day I can go 200 miles an hour all over Finland. Who gives a shit? But every time you get caught, it costs you $400,000, costs you the price of a house. Well, you might think twice about violating that law. I mean that's why you have a bunch of Saudi princes that all vacation all summer long in Belgravia in the UK, because they all have diplomatic immunity because they are one of 20,000 princes of a monarchy, and they can drive their Ferraris all night long and not get any tickets because immunity. It's pretty cool. If anyone who's a London person, hot August night, go to Belgravia at midnight and just watch these like Lamborghinis and Bugattis and stuff race all over the streets, because that's what they're doing. It's too hot to hang out in Arabia, so they're going to go to London and go to their townhomes and race their fancy cars because they got diplomatic immunity, and it's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome to see. It's one of the things that last time I was in London I went to go do, was I just sat and like watched these fancy cars just do burnouts, and the cops don't do anything because they can't do anything. Paulo God, have you seen Meta's head of community development was exposed talking to a 13-year-old boy and now fired by Indianapolis amateur predator group? Jaron Miles was his name. I have not read anything. Metamaterials or Meta Facebook? I don't know which one. That's probably one of these metas. But I did not hear about that. That is gross. Meta. Jaron Miles? Facebook. Okay, Meta Facebook. All right, so Facebook executive got busted creeping on a little boy. Cool. That's the community outreach person? Community development. Oh, so no wonder there's like so many gross communities on Facebook. Head of community global development. Read it one day ago. Gross. Man. Gfunt just tweeted you the PDF of the earnings report. Thank you. I will check that out. That's for CME Group, not for the meta grossness of Jaron Miles. Don't do that, guys. Be stronger than your lizard brain. Seriously, I'm going to make a t-shirt. It's going to say, be stronger than your lizard brain. And it's going to have like a little lizard brain with, I don't know, big buff fist coming out of it or something. And that's going to be one of the taglines of the show. Is just be stronger than your lizard brain. Stop being gross. Just, how hard is it? How hard is it to just not be gross? Most people can do it every day. They're like, you know what? I'm not going to be gross today. And they function just fine. And then others are like, you know what? I'm going to be as gross as possible, and then I'm going to face prison for it. Just don't do that. Michael Ahero, Houston, if Adam Aron yelled, "Fish wears a mattress," do you think his band boys would yell it too? Yeah, there you go. Oh, Project Sun, the quantum locking I'm talking about is levitation. There's a video demo if you search it. All right, I'm going to look that up because I hadn't heard about quantum locking regarding levitation. That water bottle's done. Okay, I got about 10 minutes left, folks, until I got a jet for the day. Let's see what else he got for me. I'm 40 minutes behind still. Houston, thoughts on the Great Reset? I'm still reading through the Great Reset books that people have sent me. There's 2 of them, and I've got about 400 more pages of reading to get through them. When I finish, I will give you my thoughts on Great Reset. Until then, yeah. Daphne, Houston, you have lots of ideas for solutions for many of our most pressing issues, society and planet. Any plans, thoughts to run for office? Maybe someday. Sometimes I think it might be more effective to be a benevolent, rich asshole with my money and just essentially pay off politicians to do the right thing. Because there's bunch of people paying them to do bad things. Why not pay them to do the right thing? I don't know. That might be like, one of the things I think we need to do as a community is lobby members of Congress to actively change rules and regulations in the markets. That we need to go to both sides. We need to go to Republicans. We need to go to Democrats. We need to go to liberals. We need to go to conservatives. And we need to point out that their constituents are constantly being hurt by this stuff. Get in their face. Tell them, hey, we'll donate to your campaigns if this manages to be passed by you. And that would do fundamentally more good than anything else. It's something that I think can have a bipartisan push behind it. The folks you won't be able to get probably are the ones that are still insider trading. But there's a lot of guys, a lot of men and women on both sides that don't participate in that stuff. That if anything, they've got like a pension fund, and that's their retirement, and that's all they're counting on. They're not. Yeah, and so we need to spread the disaffectedness of the proletariat, of the average people. Most people don't have time, energy, or money to actually fight for the things that would change their lives. So they're too busy surviving, or they don't know to do these things. And I think that we, as apes, as a community, can be a large lobbying group to see effective change, at least in the immediate realm of our direct concerns, which is markets. There's crippling, awful, bad corruption in the markets, and we need effective laws that are enforced and are heavily punitive to those who violate these regulations. And I think that's one of the big things we need to do. So maybe we need to create a super PAC that is just for fighting for ape rights. Mike Millspaw, is Ukraine democracy? If so, why did the president shut down 3 TV stations that were critical of him and his politics and imprisoned the head of the opposition political party that lost? That's the way pretty much all these former Soviet states operate. Putin did exactly the same thing. So, I hadn't heard about the imprisonment of his political opposition. But if you are an opposition party in Ukraine, you're probably funded by the Kremlin at this point. Remember that Ukraine's former president stole a bunch of money, built a private zoo, and then fled to Russia after he was ousted by a revolution of the people. So there's so much Eurasian mafia money tied to the Kremlin that flows through all these Soviet republics that it's not hard to find people with deep financial ties to Putin. And their job is to basically overthrow the country and make it a Putin satellite state. So yeah, that's probably why folks get imprisoned and TV stations get shut down, is depending on where their funding is coming from. Yeah. Fried tater. Aloha from Wahoo. Was on the Big Island this weekend. Got to hike with my kids across the Kilauea eruption from 1960. Got to stay at the Volcano House. Highly recommend Volcano National Park. Volcano National Park is awesome. I wish that there was some sort of funding that they constantly could rebuild the ring road for us, so that people can get around the crater rim, but it keeps getting destroyed by the recent eruptions. And there you go. Okay, I'm going to scroll down, and I'm skipping across like 35 minutes of tweets or chats, and I'm going to try and get some of these folks here at the end that are more up to date. Okay. Boy, no, how much longer? When's the most gonna happen? I want it to happen tomorrow, man. Yeah. That's all. We've got an active enemy that's doing everything they can to stave off ruin, and they're fighting every day to do it, man. So there we go. Okay. Christopher S., how can we have faith in the dollar when we don't have faith in Wall Street? That's a good question. The U.S. dollar would be much stronger if we didn't have a bunch of charlatans and criminals in Wall Street basically getting away with crimes constantly. Yeah, there's a... how would I phrase this? When COVID hit and the $16 trillion, or whatever it was, that eventually got pumped through the economy, dumped into the markets, done for repos, reverse repos, you name it, bank bailouts, bail-ins, all that stuff, PPP loans, 90% of that money went to folks who didn't need it. It went to people who were already filthy rich. And when they got that money, they didn't use it for investing in the future. They used that money to do stock buybacks and inflate their stock price to keep it from crashing. The PPP loans didn't go to the average folk. It went to rich people who own businesses. And there are all sorts of loopholes that allowed huge corporations like McDonald's, or who have hundreds of thousands of employees across the country. They allowed to count each individual franchise and store owned by McDonald's itself as an individual company and get a PPP loan, right? Allowed companies, RV dealerships who saw an explosion in sales over COVID. I mean, RV sales went through the roof. They managed to get millions and millions and millions of dollars in PPP loans while their business was already doing gangbusters. They were not affected by COVID, negatively affected. Like, the money that gets dumped into the economy to save the economy goes to people who already have stacks of that cash anyway, and does not generally go to people like you and me. We get $1,400 here, $2,000 there, whatever. It's not the type of funding we needed, which was probably $2,000 per person during the course of COVID lockdowns and whatnot. And if we had actually used that money to pay folks to stay home, we wouldn't have, tons of people being pissed off about lockdowns as they are now. They'd be like, I don't need to go to work because I'm being paid to stay home and to slow the spread of this virus until we can get vaccines and other things out there. And so a lot of the inflation we're having, I think, is more a result of rich people not knowing what to do with their cash, this giant influx of cash they had over the course of the pandemic, and they're trying to figure out to stuff it wherever they can. And that's a lot of what the reverse repo is the banks end up with too much cash on hand. And so now they need to give that cash to the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is giving them treasuries and bonds. And they're desperately trying to figure out what to do with all this cash because there's too much. And that's a large portion of what the inflation we're seeing is happening. Is half that, half supply chain issues. So, we were doing some good jobs. The child tax credit was doing really well and amazingly keeping a lot of children out of poverty. And children in poverty, since the child tax credit ended in December, rose 50% by January, almost instantly because of the child tax credit. That kids all of a sudden, didn't have food, and the parents can't pay for homes, and we need to do a better job in that realm. I don't even know how I got started talking about that, but there we go. World Breaker Houston, do you have a stalker on Twitter? Yes, I have a stalker everywhere. He's made websites about me, documentaries about me, all because I kicked him off of a community Facebook group 5 years ago for stalking and harassing somebody else. And I stood up to him. So now he spends 18 hours a day tweeting about me 1,000 times a day and spamming anyone who ever mentions me on the internet. That's what stalkers do. He's insane. And he recently, one of his other stalking victims, he recently framed for a felony. He took a bunch of video footage that the guy posted from his live blog and spliced it together to make it look like he was threatening the lives of the city council members in Missoula, Montana. And then he sent the video to the police and told them to arrest him because he was making terroristic threats. And they arrested the poor guy and threw him in jail. And a year and a half later, he finally gets to go to trial. And it took mere minutes for the jury to go, yeah, that was a selectively edited video. The actual videos didn't have any of those threats in there. Acquitted. The dude's a danger, and he's stalked veterans, he's stalked judges, he's stalked law enforcement, he's stalked housewives, he's stalked community volunteers, he's stalked me, he's stalked all sorts of folks. And he's been doing it for years, and he's a total basket case. And yeah, I've got a stalker. He's a piece of shit. Eat shit, Rick. You're a stalking asshole. Just have a heart attack already or something. Make everyone's lives better. Okay. Randy L, hey man, hope you and Monkey Butt are well. It's late, just checking in, say hi. Have some serious holding fatigue at this stage. Does anyone else have to be careful with the FUD? And just keep holding. Eventually it's got to all come up. Jerry Diamond, did you hear people that were vaccinated are coming up with HIV positive? Yeah, it's not a thing. There's a certain type of vaccine that uses this thing called 85, and 85 can possibly weaken your immune system and more easily allow in an AIDS virus. But there are no approved vaccines that use 85, and that's not a thing. Get vaccinated, wrap it up. You're good to go. Josh Pet Pals, Tennessee. Oh my god, I made it. I can't believe I'm here. What to say? Ugh, so nervous. Stars, Galactic War, Space Bots, Diamonds, Sea Turtles, Topaz, Oil Wells. Houston, happy birthday. Thank you, Josh. And I'm just about to check out for the evening. Thanks for jumping in here. Where is Monkey Butt? Monkey Butt, come on. Monkey Butt, come on. We gotta say goodbye to everybody. Come on. Come on. It's the end of the show. It's 4:30 our time. We got shit we gotta do. Come here. Come on. There we go. Everyone's wondering where you are, and you are just slinking away. You know your job is to be the star of the show, right? It's your job. Okay, everybody. That's it for me today. I will do a show on Monday, even though Monday's a holiday, and it's not a trading day, because my guess is there's going to be a bunch of news stacking up over the weekend, and we will have to talk about it. So we'll expect a Monday show. Charity show on Tuesday, raising money for the Humane Society to help little buddies like Monkey Butt here. And we'll see you all then. That work? All right. Ready to say goodbye? Come here. One more time. Come here. All right. Go up there. We'll say goodbye from there. All right, everyone. Toodaloo. Have a good holiday weekend, and I'll see you on Monday.